Hey, once more, welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast. My name is Solange Che, and I am your host. On the podcast today, we are talking about a follow-up on the skills topic, which was our last episode. Remember last episode, we had Buri Bongfende Fru come to us and talk to us about skills being the icing on the cake. Today, I am honored to have Primus Vekuh. Primus is a cloud engineer. He is also the founder and the CEO of Primus Cloud Solutions and Primus Learning. Today, I would like for Primus to talk to us a lot more or give us some details, especially on his Primus Learning business. Because again, remember, the goal of this podcast is to encourage you to be able to find your best version. And today, Primus is here to talk to us about cloud computing and how you can up your skills in this field. Thank you so much, Primus, for accepting my invitation and welcome to the platform.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's get to know Primus a little bit. Primus, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Primus Vekuh?
All right. So Primus Vekuh, a Cameroonian based here in Louisville, Kentucky, married and have a son. So I'm a dad. I'm a cloud engineer, as you mentioned earlier, and I work, as a cloud engineer and other things. So there are other things that are related to that. As far as the whole life cycle of software engineering is concerned, I've moved around the whole chain. So I've worked in the database world, the database management world. I've worked in the business intelligence world, data science world. So I'm inclined towards data engineering as well. And then I work as a cloud solutions architect, both in AWS environments, Azure environments, and sometimes in the Google environment. I'm the founder of Primus Cloud Solutions, which is one of the companies you mentioned. We as a company architect solutions for clients who come to us wanting to, implement or bring their services from maybe on-premise environments to the cloud space. Either they're wanting to move to AWS as a cloud provider, or maybe Azure or Google, and maybe they just want to rebuild their applications in the cloud, or make sure the applications are working well in the cloud. So we help with that, make sure there's cost reduction as far as architecting their solutions are concerned. Then you mentioned Primus Learning also. So that's one of the the companies I founded, which makes a lot meaning to me, right, as a person, as a Cameroonian, and I'm trying to bring value back to my community, because all through the process of becoming who I am, I've learned a lot. And I think through Primus Learning, a lot of people can gain skills. Not only Primus Learning, I'm not advocating just for Primus Learning. I'm looking at, Cameroonians, Africans, and anybody who is interested, gaining skills that will bring value to them. A lot of times we learn stuff that is, just general, but through Primus Learning or any other training that's geared towards advancing our skill sets, we gain skills that are particular, and that jobs out there, a lot of jobs out there that need those skills, but sometimes we lack them. So that's who I am, basically, cutting across.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. Thank you so much for giving us that much detail about yourself and actually getting into the details of skills, right? Because I know for sure that, especially I talk for myself as a Cameroonian who had the general education we have back in Cameroon, and coming out here trying to find a specific thing that I could become an expert in. We can all agree that our education back home is more on the general and on the theoretical side of things. And when we come out here, if you do not make that decision, or if you do not see that need, it will be difficult for you to find something that you can actually do, feel valuable and bring value, right, to the community. So I think that was a very important point you brought out there, learning these skills and becoming better. Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. You own two different companies. Please share with us, what is one thing you wish you had known before you started these companies? What is one thing you wish you might have done differently, or just something you wish you had known before you started your companies?
Right. So I think there's always this, when you reach a goal, then you discover that, hey, there are a lot of things that I could have done to cut all of this short and get to where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off, when I just moved to the US, I started off as a business intelligence developer, which is a good area to start with, right? It's an area where it gives you that kind of balance between data engineering and presenting that data in a way that's easily understood by somebody who is not tech savvy.
Yeah.
So I think that for people to really get started with skills in IT, you need some of those foundations. You need some of those things, those little basic things that are important towards you becoming maybe a cloud engineer. So I started off with business intelligence, but there's one little thing that people must understand. Data is like the backbone of everything. So if you want to become a cloud engineer, if you want to become any person, software engineer, you must understand how
Data works.
how data works, because that's the heart of this. And then one thing to understand in business in general is always try to get how the business functions. What are the challenges you meet? What are some of the things you need to plan for? So, those things that I would have done differently, or I would have looked at my businesses in a different way, like open them up, criticize them, look at some of those loopholes that are, and the challenges that are there. Do I have teachers for everything that I want to do?
Yeah.
What are some of the areas that I would want to engage that I think I'm limited in, and try to fill those gaps as I started. But it's along the way that I learned a lot about these. And so it's always good to plan, to study the business you want to do, to analyze it and see if you're really ready to get started.
Yeah, you got to learn a lot from the journey, right? You learned a lot in the course of this. There are different, I believe that there should be many things that you have corrected. And
Right.
remember, one of the reasons I have you on here is to share this experience. And the reason we're sharing this experiences is so that if there is anyone out there listening that is interested in getting into the same line of business, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You get to hear the challenges that people like Primus have gone through to get to where they are today. So you don't have to repeat those. So again, thank you for sharing that. And I appreciate you so much. In the course of doing all of this, in the course of getting your business to where it is today, what are some of the challenges, or let me say, what do you think has been your biggest failure so far?
Some of the challenges include not having teachers in all the areas that I want to.
Yeah.
It's a big challenge in e-learning in general, or learning platforms, right?
Yeah.
You want people to have skills in a particular thing, but you don't find qualified teachers in those areas, which is okay, but that's also an advantage for people to kind of get into this, into IT in general. There's a lot of opportunities available, and people are not making use of them. I had a job posting about 2 months ago, and wanted somebody from Africa, because the client was in South Africa. And at the end, we noticed about 200 applications came in, and we didn't have an African apply for that position, which means there's some limitation as far as the skill sets are concerned. People learn stuff. There are people, maybe let's say engineers in Africa, there are software developers, there are people who've learned things in IT, but they are just general, they're learning things in general. They don't look at what is relevant in the market today, what can I get into today that's valuable, that will bring, that is practical, that the job market needs. So some of those skills are very important to grab, and it's exactly why we're here to talk about some of the things that people can do, which will add value to them. You mentioned the educational system in Cameroon and how it's mostly general and theoretical. It's good. It gives people the ability to the base. It gives them the ability to capture material, get it as much as they can, adapt in any environment. And that's exactly what we should do right now, adapting. There are so many people who come in, they have master's degrees, maybe in different areas, history, economics, and so on, but they can't fit in very well in the US system because they don't have those practical skills that are needed in the market. What they need to do, for those who are interested in IT, learn a skill set that can give you that job. And once you gain a skill set, trust me, the market is very open. The US market is very open. The system is neat. They don't need to ask you, hey, do you have a degree in computer science? Do you have a degree in this? No, they just need to know that, hey, you know how Salesforce works. You are a Salesforce, you have the Salesforce skills that are needed in the market. You have the cloud computing skills that are needed. If you can do it, they hire you to do it. That's how the US system works. So learning those skills that are valuable is one of the things that will make us as Cameroonians who've moved here, as Africans who've moved here, to be able to adapt very well.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And again, because you mentioned this, I always say that my background has nothing to do with computer engineering, nothing, right? We have tons of young people back in Africa, in Cameroon, that have these computer engineering degrees, but it just stays at the level of a general degree. So one of the things we are pushing here is you being able to learn a particular skill. Yes, computer engineering is awesome. You have all the base, you have everything you need, but that training is just preparing you to pick a skill, come into the market, look at job descriptions, go onto LinkedIn, look at the jobs there, look at what they are requiring, look at the job descriptions. I believe that from that, you'll be able to pick the skills and say, okay, I want to learn this skill. And that is why I have someone like Primus here today who teaches and who has a platform, the Primus Learning, that teaches these courses. So we want to use our general education from back home, come in here, apply that knowledge. We have the capability to assimilate knowledge. We have the capability to read, right? For me, that works. I was able to read everything I could find about Salesforce, get my hands dirty on Trailhead, practice and fail. And it did not need me to get any particular kind of degree or to have studied in the US in order to get a job. They just need you to prove to them that this thing you're asking for, I can do it. So it's just about learning the skills. So we are here to encourage you to please give it a try. It doesn't matter what your background is in. You do not need a computer engineering degree or background to learn any of these cloud computing skills. I did not have one. Today, I am an expert. I can teach you Salesforce. So again, just so you know, do not take away that myth that, hey, computer, no, I don't have any background in computer. That is not what you need. All you need is that determination to read and to practice and to do what you have to do.
Right. And it's not only in cloud engineering, right, or cloud computing. There is IT in general is so huge. Sometimes somebody is asking, hey, can you teach me IT? There's nothing like teaching you IT, right? You get into IT, there are different career paths in IT. So you can learn to become a business intelligence developer. A business intelligence developer could be a Tableau developer. You could be a BI developer, a Power BI developer. You could be an Oracle Business Intelligence Applications developer. You could be a Python developer who works as in the analytics side of things. There's just a whole lot of things just in terms of business intelligence. Then you can talk of other things, software development. You can learn software development to become a software developer. You can learn web programming. You can learn cloud computing or AWS solutions architecting. There are different things in cloud computing that you can learn as well. You can become a solutions architect, you can become a cloud developer, you can become a network developer, you can learn to become a cybersecurity analyst, a cybersecurity, whatever. It's so huge and broad that everybody can fit somewhere, right?
Yes, that's so true.
You just need to have the zeal to learn stuff. And people always come and they're like, hey, okay, I want to do it just for 1 month and then I get a job. No, learn as much as you can. It's not about, hey, you just take 2 weeks.
It is not
learn
a get rich. It is not a get rich quick scheme. It's
exactly. You need the skills. You need to be able to do what you're going out for. So if you're planning to become a database developer, dedicate 6 months, 1 year, learn the skills, apply it, and trust me, it pays off.
That's true.
Absolutely well.
I just want to clear something. When you hear Primus talking about developer, right? You do not necessarily need to know how to code. You do not necessarily need to know how to code in order to fit in the IT world. You don't. I know a little bit of code. I just learned it because my ambitions are really high, right? But if you want to become like a business analyst, you don't need coding. You don't. Right. So there are many different paths that you can take within the IT field that you don't necessarily need to write any line of code.
Right. Absolutely. That's absolutely right. So there are people like that. Most people I know in IT, they don't know how to code. To know how to code, special fields, like there are particular areas, as I just mentioned, that you need to know how to code to fit in really well.
Yes.
Coding or learning programming languages is an add-on. It's an addition to the skills that it makes your work a lot easier. You can do it without learning how to code. You can become a business analyst and you never ever touch coding.
Never.
You can learn to become a Tableau developer and you will never have to touch anything. You can learn to become there's so many things that you can learn. A cybersecurity analyst, a cybersecurity specialist, whatever, without ever, coding. So there are a lot of things you can do without, necessarily having to code. And there are others that you need. Languages like SQL. SQL is just a communication. If you understand the English language and you are dedicated a bit, you know how to write a select statement, which is just like asking for something from
the
database because the database doesn't necessarily understand our pure English language. It understands its own syntax. So you need to write this from this, and the database understands and sends back the request you're making. So it's those are some simple and nice things that when you learn, you become special in that field. You become really hot in that field, but it just needs a little bit of dedication. And
that's nice. Good. I love select statements. The first time I learned about them, and you say, hey, you just need to tell the database, like, hey, select, like bring me every lady, every woman from this database, which means it's going in there, it's looking for everybody that is a female. And I say, bring me every female with the last name of Che. And they're like, go in there, they find it. And they bring
every name
everybody that has a
chair.
Come on. So I'm like,
so it's just a kind of fun thing. There are some jobs that you do them and you have fun while doing them, right? So those are some of the things. You get to play around with stuff that brings value, and they just look at you like, hey, this person is really valuable because you just know how to do that little thing. So some of these things are important.
And I always tell people, I love what I do. I love my job as a Salesforce consultant because I have learned how to do things that I enjoy doing. And I don't wake up from sleep being worried that, oh, it's another work day. No, I wake up from sleep, grabbing my computer and my cup of coffee because I'm looking forward to my work day. And that's why we encourage people to try to find the things you love to do. And you're not going to feel like, hey, you just have to, this is just a job, right? You'll feel like this is something that you have to do, something that brings you satisfaction, something that adds value to yourself and adds value to whomever you're working for. So again, thank you, Primus, for getting into the details of this. I just want to ask you again, what advice would you give to somebody if, let me say, this is me, right? I'm an expert in Salesforce.
Right.
Somebody could be a DBA expert. Somebody could be, I'm talking about careers that are related to IT. What advice would you give to somebody that is interested in joining your line of business? Like maybe having a learning platform or having a computer, a cloud computing solutions kind of business. What advice will you have for that kind of a person, considering that you're already in it?
Right. It's a huge world. Try to learn as much as you can because you need the knowledge to be able to understand that this is how the cloud works. You need to be to be to help others in that space. You need to be able to understand the whole cycle, right? You need to be able to understand that, hey, okay, hey, if I want to train somebody to become a database engineer in the cloud, that person needs to kind of understand how databases work in general, to be able to architect solutions in the cloud and on different databases and stuff. So you need that skill set. You need to at least be very comfortable in the IT environment.
Yep.
Know how to architect solutions and design solutions that are cost effective. When I say cost effective, it means you're not just designing a solution that's expensive, because the cloud you can just be going, keep going, and at the end you get a bill that is humongous and you're not able to pay. So in the cloud, you design solutions that are cost effective. You design solutions that take into consideration security. There's a lot of cyber attacks happening now, and so you have to learn that. And then to maybe build a business in the learning platforms, you need a lot of dedication, because you need to be able to identify what's happening in the market. That's one thing that is very important. Don't just launch courses or teach courses because they are something you're specialized in. No, teach courses because you want people to have the jobs. When people have the jobs, they will eventually recommend others and they will get to you. So teach courses that are valuable. And you know, there's one thing with skills in IT, or with IT in general, technology in general. It always changes. It's in a constant revolution.
Evolution.
Evolution, call it that way.
Yes.
It changes often, so you need to keep learning. You need to learn new things. You need to add new things. So if your platform maybe is teaching database management, in 10 years from now, nearly all database management systems or DBMS systems will be operating within the cloud. So if you want to learn database management and you learn only what happens on premise, then in 10 years you'll be out of business, because you'll not be able to work in the cloud space. So evolve as the technologies evolve, learn new things as they're coming up. So new things like data engineering. You hear of big data. The big data world is blowing off. Learn things like blockchain. Blockchain is something in IT that is really is at its beta state, or call it its test states, right? So some of the tests in blockchain would include things like Bitcoin. Many people think that blockchain is equal to Bitcoin, which is not true. Blockchain is the general technology that's used, and then one of the applications of blockchain is Bitcoin. And there are other applications out there. There are applications of blockchain which are in the supply chain management areas. They're trying to see how blockchain can be useful in supply chain, how blockchain can be useful in healthcare. Those are areas that you can explore more, right? And put courses out there that tackle those skill sets. So it's an area where you need to always be constantly learning and try to adapt to the changes, and then align courses that capture these skill sets in the market, and try to know what happens in the minds of recruiters. That's very important, right? I'm a hiring manager too, so I do technical interviews to recruit people and so on and so forth. So you need to be in the mind of the technical interviewers, because you don't want to teach people something they will not meet when they're interviewing, right? You need them to pass through.
Yes,
So
you need
in
to
my
prepare
courses,
them.
right, in my courses, there are sessions which are dedicated for
Mock
interviewing
interviews.
sessions,
Yeah.
mock interviews.
I
So
did a
I'm
lot of mock
interviewing,
interviews before I got my first job. I did
right,
those. Yeah.
I'm interviewing you just as I'll interview my candidates at work.
Then you hire.
So put a panel, we get you prepared, and we go through the process with you. So it's important you bring that into your training, because the trainees need to understand what happens in the market. They need to feel like they're they are in the job already. They are, so you need to really have them make, what I'm saying is, make the skill sets practical. Make everything you're training for practical, so that as they hit the market and they get the jobs, they are applying exactly what you guys learned. Don't just let it be theory or not as practical as they will face
in the real life,
when they get the jobs. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. This is you bringing in your hiring skills together with teacher skills. And again, this is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I picked up from that as well. That helps a lot. And Primus, I will guess that you did not initially go to school to study cloud computing, right?
You're right.
What
Absolutely
are some
right.
of the resources? What are some of the things that you have read or you've listened to, or how did you get to this level? What was your journey like?
So my journey has been, kind of slippery, not slippery in
What's
that
your
sense,
background is? What
but
is your
yeah.
background?
So I started off wanting to become a priest. So I was in the seminary for about 11 years. I started formation, to become a priest, and just a few months to be ordained. And then I decided to move to the US, and I was like, hey, what can I do in the US that will bring value to me? And I love to sleep at night. So I looked at some jobs and they were like, hey, I'll need to be working at night. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And so I just was looking around, trying to Google around, find things that are, that you can do and that can bring value to you, that are beneficial to you, and you can work your normal day shift, 8 hours.
Have
So
a
I looked,
work-life balance.
right, and I saw IT as something I could do. Before then I loved IT generally. I had some basic skills in IT. Those days when we used to learn typing and how to store things on floppy disks. So I had that basic knowledge. And then I took a course that was just 3 months long, business intelligence course. And after the course, I started applying for jobs and learning as much as I could. I learned a lot that period, right? And it was all around business intelligence. So Oracle, I started with Oracle Business Intelligence. That's what I learned. And then after about 6 months, I think I got my first job. It was a state job, and I was supposed to be a lead in that job. So a team of 7 people I was leading, and that job was huge. It was a 6 figures job, my very first job. Whoa. And from there, as a team lead, it was tough. I had to learn, right? There was a lot of challenges that I faced, which made me just get into learning as much as I could. So I learned database management. I had to learn
people management.
Exactly, people management, because I was working in a team. I was leading a team, and I had to know how to manage a team and so on. And Then I discovered that, hey, this world is huge. It's not as I thought. It's not a simple world as I thought. And so I decided to, officially learn in school. So I applied in Boston University, where I studied information technology, and finally graduated from my master's program, and currently doing a PhD in computer information technology.
I always say people who go that route, these are people who are looking at having leadership. These are people who go and do a master's in computer engineering, doing a PhD. I bet you're heading for leadership, Primus. I see you in the leadership space.
It's a it's a connected world, right?
Yes.
Once you're in there, you don't want to be in one spot. You don't just want to be a database manager or a database developer or a database administrator. You want to move. You don't want to just come in, be comfortable in one place because
And
you're
stay
making
there.
6 figures. You're like, hey, okay, I'm good, and you stay there and you relax. No, we want to constantly change, and so there are a lot of opportunities out there, and I think once you're kind of global, you go around, you begin to see that there are more opportunities out there. There are leadership opportunities, there are management opportunities you can really grab, and that's exactly where I'm heading to. I don't have a stopping point.
That's awesome. There is something you said that I just want to piggyback a little bit on, right? When you talk about getting your first job, I've had people ask questions like, hey, I am in the US, I'm an immigrant, we all are. And they will say, hey, I don't want to do IT because it requires a work authorization, it requires a green card.
Yep.
Did you need a green card or citizenship to get your first job in the IT field?
Absolutely not. My very first job was with the state, as I mentioned, and I had just a work authorization, just a work permit. So you don't need a green card to be able to get into IT or get a job in IT. That's one misconception. I've had that a lot of from a lot of people. They're like, hey, can I have a job? There are jobs that are more, their requirements are different, and that's why they would require maybe a green card holder to have those type of jobs, or they would require a citizen to have those type of jobs that are more maybe they deal with data that's secure. They deal with maybe government contracts that you need clearance to be able to work in those areas. It's not like it's discrimination or something. They just want to have people who are cleared, whose backgrounds have been checked, and they have security clearance. They can hold you responsible if something happens. But with there are like thousands and thousands of jobs, as many jobs as you can imagine, that you would have with just a work permit. You don't need to have you just need to have a work permit and be able to get in.
Yeah, thank you for clearing that, because I've had that question. I've had that question come up a lot, and I always I've told a few people like, hey, I got my own first job in the Salesforce space as well without having a green card. And yeah, so if I can, Primus did. Why can't you? Don't be limited. Do not feel limited. Try to go out there, explore, realize that, yes, there are those jobs that you will not be able to get into because of the sensitivity of their data, but there are also those jobs that don't have that kind of data. So be open to it. Do your research, and I bet you that there is something for each of us out there. I always come out with this abundance mentality. I try to fight against the scarcity mentality. The fact that Primus is an expert in cloud engineering doesn't mean that if I become an expert in cloud engineering, I'm going to tap from or take away something from Primus. No, it is huge. The river is big. There is abundance out there for everyone. So let's learn to share just as Primus is sharing now, because yes, being what he is, I'm not going, if today I start a business and say, okay, I also want to do a cloud, yes, Primus and I will be in the same space, but there is abundance. Primus cannot,
absolutely.
He cannot have everybody in the world learn in his school. No.
Exactly.
So we need to take away that mentality.
Right? Yes. Sometimes I get people with, and I notice that they are more inclined towards something that I don't teach. I send them to my colleagues who teach in those areas, like their database administration courses that are taught by some friends of mine. There's Join IT and so on. Sometimes I get people and I think these people are more inclined towards that direction. I send them to them and, hey, train this person to become a database administrator, train this person to become maybe a Tableau developer, train this. So it's a huge world where everybody has a place. So you're
Yes,
not supposed to be limited because somebody is doing this. I'm like,
that's it.
hey, challenged or no. So it's huge.
Awesome. Yes, let's get back to you, Primus. This is time for me to tap into you to kind of see some of those things that inspire you, right? I want to get to know a little bit, like to share with the audience and I, who are three most influential people in your life? Who are the three? I know there could be more, but let's limit it to three. Let's
Okay.
talk about three people that have been influential to you at this point in your life.
So we are immigrants, right? And
Yes.
uh, people have influenced me in the IT field in general, or in general, right? Who've made an impact. There is this guy known as Naveen. He is the founder of Infosys. I'm sure you've heard of
Yeah, I
Infosys.
know
It's a
Infosys.
huge
Yep.
company in the US that does recruiting,
Yes.
consulting, and so on. So he migrated from India, came to the US, and just like me, he started off, working for companies out there. He had the skills, and after that, he decided to create his own company, founded Infosys, and it's been growing. It employs 15,000 people now.
It's a
His
huge
story,
company.
yeah, it is. It is a huge company. His story is amazing. So when you read some of the the founders and startups in the US and you read their stories, they are amazing. But his was particularly very interesting and he inspires me. I talk with him, so he inspires me a lot. That's one person. Then there is my favorite person. Is my favorite person. The Amazon founder, Jeff Bezos. He is kind of uh, a go-getter. He doesn't have a stopping point, right? He started off a bookseller. Amazon was just
A
selling books,
bookstore.
right? It was a bookstore. So he started off that way and he started looking big. What else can I do in this space to make things work, right? As a bookseller, a bookstore, you don't have a lot of potential. So if you limit yourself and say, hey, okay, I'm selling just books, you're definitely limiting yourself. You're not able to grow. But once you look beyond books, you're like, okay, what else can I do in that supply chain? Then you
Yes.
begin to see that I can market this, I can do this, and you know, it led to Amazon. He didn't end there. He was like, okay, how do I all of these things, how do I make sure that the transactions that happen within the supply chain, that happen within the whatever space that's the movement, the whole chain from buying something to actually getting it to the doorsteps of the buyer,
Yes.
he decided to get into
The
AWS,
cloud.
the cloud. Like, how do I provide these services, but not in the typical normal way that people do it? And then he decided to found AWS, which is blowing now. That's a huge part of revenue that's of the Amazon revenue.
Revenue.
It's cloud computing. Now he's not limited to cloud computing. He's beginning to think of space. There could be something in space, and you see he's just founded his space origin and he's moved to space, and there's a lot that he's still working on, right? So we shouldn't be limited by, hey, I have these skills, I'm
Yeah.
good to go. Oh, I founded a company, I'm good to go. What is beyond that company that you're not seeing currently that you could eventually get to?
Thank you so.
That's my second person. And then we have my Elon Musk, who is that type who thinks he always thinks out of the box. We always say, hey, let's think out of the box now, but he always thinks out of the box, and you can see him uh, getting to where he is, to Tesla, and his cloud, his space exploitations, to his SpaceX and so on.
Yeah.
So those are some of the three persons who inspire me, but there are many others. This these three are just the unique ones.
Dimensions. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And
You're
I was
welcome.
talking to some colleagues, and I shared like Salesforce just had one of their biggest Salesforce events, the Dreamforce. And
Dreamforce. I was watching Dreamforce as it was
yes,
happening. So
that thing
uh,
melts my heart. I always just I feel so proud to be
right,
part of that culture. And I watched it and I saw your friend
Jeff
Jeff and Mark Benioff. They were talking
McBean.
for so long. Those are the two CEOs, right?
Yeah,
Eh,
those are people who
Amazon and Salesforce.
right. They don't compete with each other.
They
That's
don't
that's that's
compete.
the that's the important thing, right?
Yes,
Salesforce is beginning to do cloud computing, it's beginning to get into stuff, but they don't compete with
they
each. Those
don't.
are amazing friends. They talk at levels, you know, they think leadership, they think how to
Yeah,
affect you and I. They think how to, you're not just thinking money, you're thinking of how to affect somebody's life. That's how
yes.
you bring value. You're not just thinking of, hey, I want to create a company so that I will get rich. They're thinking of how do I translate the
This,
services that I offer to touch you as a person. And
yes.
from that Dreamforce conference, you could actually see that happening. So yeah,
Yeah, that
I
was
watched it
awesome.
and it was
It
amazing.
was amazing. And I say, you see, when they sit like that, the integrations are just going to be crazy. Like
Right.
this space, this cloud space is huge. If you have an opportunity, like if you feel like this is something that you might enjoy doing, this is the time to hop in,
Right.
join the moving train.
Absolutely.
This is huge. Thank you so much for sharing that. I always appreciate it. I love it when people share my passion. It just makes me excited. I
I
really
know.
love it. We have
All right.
already
Awesome.
spoken about some of those myths when we spoke earlier on, talking about the background. You don't need an IT background in order to learn any of these skills. You do
Right.
not necessarily need to be a green card holder in order to get an IT job. I intended for us to talk about that when we talk about the myth, but since we have taken care of that, let's move into the services you offer. Right? I know that you don't teach all the courses, all the cloud computing courses you don't. So if you can just help talk about a couple of the cloud cloud skills that you teach at Primus Learning, I'd appreciate.
All right. So we teach not only cloud computing skills, we
Mhm.
teach other skill sets in IT in general, but not all. So once maybe somebody comes to us, that's one good thing with us. We try to give you some orientation, right? We try to direct you. Look at your skill sets. Where is this person coming from? If you're coming from a philosophy background like I did,
Yeah.
or a theology background like I did, hey, we look at you. Are you an analytical person? Are you a kind of quantitative person? What can you easily learn? And we
Yes.
direct you to that point where you can get started. So we have courses that are business inclined, business intelligence inclined.
Fine.
We have Tableau, we have Power BI. And then if you want to become a database administrator, you can still come to us and we'll direct you. Look at your skill sets, if look at who you are and try
Mhm.
to put things together. We can send you to our partners who teach uh,
Those
database
ways
administrator.
process.
I wanted to shout out uh, to Join IT Solution. They are doing an amazing job as far as database administration is concerned. They
Awesome.
train you for 6 months. Their training is starting October 30th. So you're right on if you wanted to do that. They are amazing. Sometimes
Awesome.
most of their students have their jobs while still in training. So
Oh,
they
that's nice. How do you
tells
call
you
them again? Joint
Join IT
Join
Solution.
IT. Ah,
Yeah.
okay. That's nice. So add it to the description just so you can check it out, or you can check
Okay.
Primus out, check Primus Learning out, and he'll be able to direct you. Because again, one thing that I find gold, right, in what he does is this orientation part.
Right.
The fact that he actually creates this time to talk to you, to be able to help identify where your strength lies and like what you can easily learn. Because the truth is, it's just like taking somebody like me who I don't like anything that really has to do with mathematical things. So if you put
Right.
me in anything that way, I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. So I believe that that is a very important part of what you do,
Right.
helping people find their strengths
Exactly.
and follow the paths that they will easily excel in.
Adapt. Yep.
Yes, that
And
is.
other courses that we offer, right? Cloud computing courses. They include the AWS courses. So AWS has different career paths as well. You can
Yes.
do AWS solutions architecting. You can do AWS developer. You can become a, there are different things. A DevOps engineer. We teach those too. And then there are Azure courses. Azure, which is
Microsoft.
Microsoft cloud computing space. You can become an Azure architect or solutions architect, an Azure administrator, database administrator. You can become an Azure developer and or a DevOps person. There is same things, same kind of courses in Google, the Google Cloud space.
Yeah,
These are
okay.
different career paths, and trust me, skills in one will get you into the market. So
You
those
don't
are
need
some
to
of the
learn
things.
all of them. You don't need to. You see,
Exactly.
I have an idea of all the things he's talking about, but I don't know all of them. What do I know? I know
Right.
Salesforce, right? So
Absolutely.
you don't need to learn all of this. You need to pick one that works best for you and excel at it. I
Yep.
guess that's the
Absolutely.
idea. Yeah. So again, where can our listeners find you online if they were to reach out to you? Where can they find you online?
All right, so just go to primuslearning.org, primuslearning.org, one word, and you get to us. You can also, if you wanted to get to us concerning any cloud computing, you know, jobs, you want to move your work into the cloud space, you want to host your applications, you want to maybe host your website, buy a website,
Mhm.
do the hosting, you can go to primuswebhosting.com. Primus Web Hosting is our hosting service. And
Okay.
then if you wanted to kind of, get you're a bigger company, you want to move to the cloud, you can get to
Solutions.
primuscloudsolutions.com.
Awesome. I'm going to add all of those in the description. So, my dear listeners, when you listen to this, when you watch this, you'll be able to find all of this information down there. And before I close this episode, right, there is one thing I love to do. I love to make my guests, I love to put my guests on the spot so that they can talk to one person out there. So, this is me asking you, Primus, please. I want you to throw a word out there to that one person that might not be sure of what they want to do, that one person that is probably lost, not very sure if they want to change their careers, if they want to learn something new, and just target that one person. It doesn't have to be the whole audience, but just that one person that is going to take this message away. So I'm putting you in on the spot now to become a motivational speaker. Make somebody move today, Primus. The mic is
Okay.
yours.
Thank you very much. So first of all, we are all free human beings. We're able to make choices, right? God has given us what's called free will, to be able to make choices that affect our life. You can make a choice that points you towards the positive direction or that points you towards a negative path. And there are people who are suffering from different things in life. And you can actually make a choice to move away from maybe an addiction. You can make a choice to move away from a job that is not yours, a job that pays you $10 an hour or that pays you less than what you're qualified to get. You can make a choice to become a cloud engineer today. You can make a choice to become a solutions architect. You can make a choice to become a medical doctor, and you work towards that. It's not just making a choice and ending at that choice. It's making a choice and then working towards it. That's the most important thing I've learned. God has given us the freedom to choose to do stuff, and you can actually become something. So I want to speak to anyone who is listening. If you are in a challenging situation, right? If you're like, hey, what can I do that adds value to me as a person? There is a lot out there. Just maybe talk to somebody. That's the first thing. You can talk to somebody. You can get to us through our platforms. You can get to Solange. You can get to anybody who can listen to you. Decide to do something. Don't just sit at one spot and be like, hey, everything has ended. Decide to do something. Make that choice today to move forward, right? Maybe you've had challenges and things that have failed. Decide to move forward, move away from those. It's it's one thing to fail and remain at that failure, and another
It's
thing to
another thing to
fail,
stand up.
stand up and start going.
There we
Because
go.
once you fail and stop, then you're failed. But once you fail and you pick up, start going, you were you that failure acted as a learning point for you, and
Yes.
you just started up, and that may actually be your breakthrough point, right? It may be your breakthrough moment. So if you are that person who is maybe stuck in your job and you're like, hey, frustrated, you feel like everything is not going right, you want to make a change, this is the moment to decide to make a change, and it can happen, right? And let's always trust that God has us at the palms of his hands, right?
Yeah.
He figures things out for us. So if you're deciding, he is always available to push us, and reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, and make a move. That's very important. Make a choice, make that choice permanent, and decide to grab as much as you can. There's a whole lot of material out there, free learning materials. Get to people like Solange, get to me, get to anybody who is out there who is making an impact, and move forward. Life is more than just sitting at one point or one spot.
And
Let us
complaining.
decide to, yeah, to move and make an impact to ourselves and to others in society.
Awesome. That is beautifully said. Thank you so much, Primus. One of the best things I've picked from what you said in your last words is the free will we have. The fact that we have the free will to make the choice, to decide what we want to do. I think that that is very important. Like you have the choice to decide on, hey, do I want to do this? Make that decision and follow it. Again, there are a lot of people who suffer from procrastination, right? It is okay. It is a trait. It is a default. However,
Right.
let me use it in French, right?
I know.
Procrastination is a default,
Right.
but it is something that you can work on. If you procrastinate, if you're somebody that procrastinates like 10 times a week, try to push to make sure that you cut it down to two of those things that you're procrastinating about. Make sure that they happen slowly but surely. You're going to get there. And again, thank you so much, Primus, for taking the time to talk today on my platform. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the knowledge you've come here to share. And again, I will put the description of all the places where you can be reached on the description of this video so that people can reach out to you. Reach out to Primus, reach out to me. We are here to help, right? This is a way that we give back to our community.
Right.
This is our own way of giving back. So we are open to talking to you, helping you, guiding you to make the decisions that could be life changing to you. And again, if you haven't yet, please go ahead and follow the You Can Be Anything podcast, both on Facebook and on Instagram. To watch this video, you'll be able to find it on YouTube. The YouTube channel goes under my name, Solange Che. Primus, I thank you so much for your time. I do not even have the words to say it, but for making this and for sharing all this knowledge, I appreciate you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you too. Just want to thank you for the opportunity. The platform is amazing. In fact, I'm grateful to be here.
Yes, I'm happy you are. Have a good one. And
You
hey,
too.
guys, be good to each other. Do little acts of kindness because what else? How hard is that? It is
Absolutely.
important for us to be good to each other at every point of our lives. Have a good one and stay blessed. Bye bye.